More news on the go for you this Wednesday. Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Dr. Nzimande says advancing the African science agenda is crucial for promoting a just and equal world. The minister was addressing the opening of the 9th Science Forum South Africa in Pretoria yesterday. This week-long event seeks to ignite discussions on scientific challenges and solutions for the country, as well as the continent at large, by bringing together the scientific community, government, industry and even civil society. SABC News reporter Patricia Visagie is part of our team there. She joins us now live from the capital, and we really are spoiled for choice, Patricia, about where to begin in canvassing the different offerings that are there, some of them perhaps more interesting than others.
Definitely, and of course the experts that are here who share their research with us, the products that are at display that are being shown. We've seen so many interesting gadgets and some of the robotic material that is also at a display here at the Science Forum. But one of the interesting subject matters is the era of artificial intelligence. But of course, it being part and partial of our societies these days, many are asking, but how do you regulate this? What are the laws? What are the policies that need to be implemented to make sure that, in particular, children who use artificial intelligence are kept safe? I'm now joined by Dr. Begani Mbuli from UJ. He is an expert in artificial intelligence, the policy thereof. There were interesting discussions that were held that tapped into, in particular, what type of policy, what type of laws are needed to regulate artificial intelligence, in particular on social media, where we know that is the space, the playfield for young people. And can you just take us through some of the interesting, topics, points that were made that perhaps provide solutions as to in which direction are we going?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning. The reality of it is that our children are using internet and they're always on the social media space all the time. So now the question is that as they are interacting with the social media, the space there, are they properly protected to ensure that they don't get becoming victims of predators online and all that. So then the discussion was essentially on saying how to ensure, especially South Africa and the entire African continent, to ensure that there are clear laws that are put up to ensure that these children are protected, as well as making sure that as the innovators, as the big companies are developing this, they can put in measures to ensure that the children are protected and they cannot necessarily be exposed to any illicit trades or any form of exploitation that can happen online. So basically that is what the conversation was about.
And as we mark the annual 16 days of activism that obviously aims to curb violence against women and children, that particular aspect becomes even more topical. As we know, we've seen previously there have been disturbing incidents of children who have been groomed online by sexual predators in particular. Some of them were even kidnapped, roped into human trafficking, for instance, and it all started online.
Yes, definitely. That's a very serious concern that was part of the discussion. So number one, I think what came out clearly was that we need specific laws that are going to deal clearly and vividly with this kind of trade online, to ensure that the companies, Meta and other companies, as they put the material or the platform, the children as they're interacting with it, there are sort of indicators to ensure that they're well protected. I remember somebody picked up that Australia, for example, has said the cut-off for using internet, social media, should be at least 16 or above. So now in our case, how to ensure that our children are well protected, because there is serious exploitation. And then the second part of it is that we need cooperation between the government, between the police, between the innovators themselves, and also the parents and the children. This should be a stakeholder engagement that should be put in to ensure that everybody comes into the party to protect the children. So when we are coming up with these platforms, how do we put in algorithms that will ensure that it can easily pick up that this is a young child? So when there's material that's being traded online to exploit the children, that can easily be picked up and be closed off. But then the other gap that exists is that how do these people get to be tried? The ones that are exploiting the children. So now you need to have a cooperation between the legal community and also the policing to ensure that they are brought into order, because it's likely Facebook picks up that there is a problem, but they just turn it off. But then what happens after to ensure that those people get to be punished and the children get to be protected adequately? And then the other part that needs to come into play is thinking about how do we teach the children about these dangers that exist online. How do you ensure that they've got the skills in their curricula as they are growing up, as they interact with this? Because it's most likely that we won't be able to stop them using the platforms, but then how do we ensure that they know the safety components of it, they know the privacy of it as they're interacting with it? So if somebody says, hey, send me a picture of such and such, they can easily stop that. So that becomes a part of the discussion. And also, as a continent, as a country, how do we ensure that there are specific laws that deal with such predators and ensure that our children are protected? So those are the considerations.
So obviously this is still at a discussion phase, but how long can we look at action being taken where we start seeing the framework that perhaps goes to Parliament and so forth? Were there any clearer indications in the discussions that perhaps gave some sort of a timeline that within this particular period we have to be this far? Because the fact of the matter is we are in that space already. Children are already on those platforms, and the sexual predators are there, and they know the vulnerability of in particular children.
Yes. So the unfortunate part of it all is that the technology seems to be a little bit far ahead from the regulation. So that's the reality of it. And the countries are sort of taking this thing a little bit slow. But from the African Union perspective, there are some suggested blueprints. For example, the African Union High-Level Panel on Emerging Technologies has put up a framework to ensure that these should be the considerations as the artificial intelligence comes into the space. And then those discussions need to be discussed at that level from the science and technology committees, and then that will then go into the different member states across the continent. And then within those member states, we are expecting them to start acting on making sure that the regulation sort of catches up with the technology and put in measures that will ensure that as the technology is going, at least there should be a provision to ensure how to deal with such cases as and when they come up. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Of course, artificial intelligence policy expert Dr. Begani Mbuli. They're just taking us through how they're planning to make sure that there are provisions made within the current laws in South Africa to regulate anything that has to do with artificial intelligence, in particular the spaces where young children dwell on, and that is, of course, social media, where often the dangers lurk, but not sufficient provisions are made in terms of the law, in terms of law enforcement, to make sure that children are protected. So very interesting space that one will have to look out for in the near future. What exactly will the laws be, and how will the South African criminal justice system fit into all of this? It's
Without
back
a
to
doubt.
studio.
Very intriguing indeed. Patricia Visagie, live to us there from the CSIR Center in Pretoria. Thanks very much indeed.